Well, hello, dear friends. I'm glad that you could join me again. This is Bob Hatton. This is the Encourager. Yeah, I hope you were encouraged yesterday, although maybe the stuff we were talking about was a little bit discouraging. As we look through this list, a good dad is like this, a good dad is like that. And perhaps you, just like I was thinking, that's not me. I've not done that. I've not been as good as that. I've not made the grade. And I said yesterday, but listen, there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Now, perhaps you are not a father. Perhaps you would like to be a father. Well, you can listen to what we're talking about, and maybe you just do your best. You can't do any more than that. But perhaps you don't have any children, and the time is now past. You won't have any children. But you have people who are around you who you can influence, who you can leave stuff behind, who you can train, you can help. In other words, you can be a spiritual father. And although at some other time maybe I could speak about mothers are not fathers. There's a difference, but at the same time there are similarities. So we're speaking to everybody. And I think everybody, when we think about this, we see other people who are much better than we are, and it's not good to compare yourself to other people, but we wish we could do better. And sometimes we do feel condemned, and I feel that sometimes as well. That's why that's one of my favorite books. There's no favorite verses. There's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. But sometimes our heart does condemn us, but God is bigger than our heart, and so on. But there is something that we can receive from God, and that's called forgiveness. Forgiveness. I'd like to tell you a little story. You know that I'm a storyteller. I love telling stories, and it's about the king of Russia, the Tsar Nicholas the First, who I think lived in the first half of the 19th century. And Nicholas, he was very concerned about his soldiers. And he kept asking the generals, are my soldiers okay? Are they provided for? Are they in good condition? And so on. And the generals said, yes, of course. But Nicholas didn't really know whether he could trust them. So he decided to go incognito amongst his soldiers. And he went dressed, I don't know whether he went as a simple soldier or just a junior officer. But he put on the uniform, and he started to mix around the soldiers. He got to know them. He asked them questions. He found out about the conditions that they were living under and serving under. And one day he met this guy who was a paymaster, and he had a special affinity with him. They became very close friends, and every time the king would go past his office, if he saw there's anybody in there, he would go in and he would sit down, and they would talk together and share life with one another. There was quite a close friendship had grown. But the paymaster, he had a problem that the king didn't know anything about. The paymaster didn't know he was the king. He was incognito. So but the paymaster did have a big problem, and the king knew nothing about it. And that was, he had a gambling problem. And he would go and play cards, and he would lose. But he was certain that he was going to get lucky one day, and probably one day very soon. He was absolutely certain of that. And he didn't realize that he had wasted all his possessions, all his wealth that he may have had. It had been lost through gambling. And because he was a paymaster, in his office there was a safe, and the safe was full of money which he had to give to the soldiers. That was their pay. And every week or every month they would come, and he would give them something, and he got so much money that he could pay them for the next three months. And then he decided, well, he could take some of this money. It was like an investment. He would gamble it, and he was sure he was going to get lucky, and then he could pay the money back, and he would have money besides, and everything would be okay. But what happened, I'm sure, he kept taking money and he kept losing it, taking money and losing it. And then one day he got a letter from the headquarters, and he said, "Dear paymaster, tomorrow we're going to send 2 people and they're going to check the accounts. It's just a routine thing, as we do every now and again. So they're coming, they'll make sure that everything is okay in your accountancy and that all the money is there." So when the paymaster got this, he became terribly afraid, and so he checked his books. He checked how much money was in the safe, and he checked how much money there should have been there. He made his accounts and his arithmetic on a piece of paper, and he was so shocked that so much money was missing. And as he was so worried and didn't know what to do, he wrote at the bottom of the paper, "So much debt, who can pay that? So much debt, who can pay that?" And he said this time tomorrow they will come, and when they look through the accounts, they will call the provost marshal, the military police. I will be arrested. I will be put in prison. I will be punished in some way. Maybe even it'd be a capital punishment, the death sentence. And he thought about his family and what the shame that would come upon them for what he did. So he decided that he was going to commit suicide. He took his pistol out of his holster and put it to the temple of his head, and he was going to pull the trigger, but he couldn't. I don't think it was because he wasn't brave enough, but he wasn't stupid enough to pull that. It wasn't in him. So he thought if he'd drink a glass of vodka, that might give him the courage to pull the trigger. Well, he drank a glass of vodka, and that didn't help him. So he drank another one and another one until the bottle was empty. Then he took another bottle, and it didn't take very long, and he was completely drunk. He couldn't even lift the pistol in the end. And instead of him committing suicide, he fell asleep on his chair where he was. A little bit later, the king, in his disguise, came through the barracks and saw the light is on in the paymaster's office. So I'll go in there. I'll go and have a chat with him and see how he's doing. So he went into the office and he saw the paymaster. His head was sunk on his chest. He got his pistol in his hand, and he was afraid that he'd maybe shot himself. So the king ran over, and he could hear him. He was snoring quietly before him, and he saw the paper, and he saw the arithmetic on the paper, and he saw in big letters written at the bottom of the paper, "Such a debt, who can pay it? Such a debt, who could pay it?" And quickly the king realized what had happened. He'd embezzled so much money, and he was just about to call the provost marshal, call the police to come and arrest him. And he thought, wait a minute, this guy is your friend. So he thought, this is what I'll do. He took out a pen out of his pocket, and he wrote on the pen, "Paid in full, the Tsar Nicholas I." And then out of his pocket, he took his seal, and he stamped it on the bottom of the paper, and then left the room. And the next morning, the paymaster awoke. His head was spinning, and then he remembered, oh no, I'm in so much trouble. The accountants will be here very, very soon, and I'll be in dead trouble. They will arrest me. I'll go to prison. I'll be shot. Oh dear, what am I going to do? And then he looked at the paper, and it said on the, his arithmetic was there. There's so much money missing. And he'd written at the bottom, "So much debt, who can pay it?" And beyond that was the words, "Paid in full, King Nicholas, Tsar Nicholas I." His debt had been paid. And dear friends, our debt, the fact that we've not been as good a father as we would have liked to have been, the fact that we maybe failed in other areas of our life, maybe also as a mother or in any other way. What happened when Jesus died on the cross? He forgave us all of our sin. He forgave us all of our trespass. He reconciled us back to God. It's just as though nothing happened. And this is such a strong message that we need to hear so that we can come back home, The Father has forgiven us. His arms are wide open. They're waiting for us. Dear friends, you can come home, whether it's Christmas, Easter, Pentecost, or whatever time of the year it is. His arms are open and they're waiting for us. What a wonderful story. Hey, stand up and get going. Make your way home today. The Father's waiting for you. Okay, have a good day. See you tomorrow. You're Bob Hatton. You're encouraging.